Greg, when you look at your peers across the industry, what do you see as a go-to-market playbook that's starting to fail? It's losing a lot of steam, but others are in denial about it, and they keep going full steam ahead as if nothing's changed.
Well, I mean, I think I'm a big believer in the you must be present to win, right? I think you need to be out there. You need to, again, go back to the people buy from people. You have to form those relationships. You have to form that trust level out there. I think, where people are doing more and more of their prospecting and their selling, if you will, just virtually, even, through, Zoom calls or just via email. Um, I think people, especially coming out of COVID and everything else that happened, people have gotten a little tired of that, and they want to have that human interaction again. So I think getting out there is incredibly important.
Do you think when it comes to the face-to-face contact, do you see people being precise enough, or are they so starved for the human contact and the face-to-face that they're okay settling for going to an event where they're, I don't know, maybe only 5 or 10% of the attendees line up with the people they really want to be meeting with?
I think that's another fair question, right? I mean, I think there's no doubt there are a lot of conferences in this business, right? Especially this industry, and I think if you really want to make it effective, you got to do your homework. Figure out which of the conferences are going to be the right audiences for you and your solution and your product, and then align to those. I mean, you can get totally wrapped around the axle and just go to conference after conference after conference and ultimately say, well, I've done all this time, I've been really, really busy, but I don't have a prospect list to come out of it, right? And so that to me is kind of a fool's errand, as opposed to saying, okay, whatever level you're at in an organization and whoever you're selling to, do your homework, understand which of the conferences are going to actually draw those people, and then do your homework beforehand, reach out, be proactive, set meetings. Don't just kind of expect them to happen. That's how you make it work. So I think we've all been victim of, hey, let's just be busy to be busy. But at the end of the day, that doesn't help fill your book of business at all.
Yeah, we've kind of mapped out on this whole thing that a 3-day conference with a day of travel on each side and a day of load-in time and 2 or 3 days of getting ready and 2 or 3 days coming back, the 3-day conference ends up being 2 weeks. You do that 24 times a year and there's your year.
There's your
So
year. Yeah,
yeah.
there's your year. Yeah, and I think that's there's a big lesson learned there, right? And even if you're not exhibiting, if you're going in and just as an attendee, I mean, I do think it's incredibly important again to just do your homework, understand who you're going to meet with, make it count. I think that's the takeaway. If you're going to have this opportunity, the people you're meeting with, you owe it to them to make it count as well.
I think sometimes too, when people's FOMO instincts are kicking in, they look to some of these larger companies where they're actually in a lot of Fortune 1000 companies, they have the luxury of having a full-time data center evangelist. And it's that person's entire job to be on pretty much every panel, be present at every conference, supported by a multi six-figure investment at the conference, a vendor exhibitor. But that's just usually not practical for a small to mid-sized company with a few dozen or even a few hundred employees.
Yeah, I agree. It's not only is it not practical, but a lot of the time you're probably not even reaching the right people, right? And so, I think it's incumbent upon every, sales or revenue team to work closely. If you're a larger organization and you've got a marketing and events team, to make sure that you're lining things up and you're doing it the right way. Um, I've been fortunate enough to kind of, come up through my career, always being in a kind of very entrepreneurial, young, scrappy companies, kind of starting at the ground floor and making it happen. And so, I wasn't, in this, and I'm still not in a situation where you have this whole big support system around you to kind of just enable you. It's like, oh God, if I got to put all this work into it, I might as well make it count. So we'll do it right.
I've been forecasting for a while that I think we're going to see a resurgence of micro events, inexpensive grassroots events held in conference rooms and classrooms with a couple dozen of the perfect right people on the attendance list. Do you think we're on the right track with seeing that? Do you think we're headed down that path, or do you feel that there's so much capital coming into this industry that people really aren't that concerned with precision right now?
I think it's gonna be a blend of both. I do think there's a place for some of the larger scale conferences that draw a lot of people and a lot of excitement and interest because there's a lot of good information that's shared there. However, I think, whether it's the small roundtables or the kind of the private networking events where you can pull in leaders or decision makers at the appropriate level and kind of Chatham House rules to say, okay, let's help solve a problem together, right? And let's share some ideas about how we're, dealing with, different things that are impacting the industry, whether it's something technical or, kind of going back to, what kind of community outreach are you performing and what kind of feedback are you getting? How are you solving it? Those are the types of things where you start to build that kind of trust and relationship that ultimately is going to lead to some other opportunity down the road. I mean, I think one of the traps that people make in this business is they're always trying to go out for the sale. I'm kind of a believer that the sale is going to happen at some point, when the stars align, and if you do the right thing along the way. But yeah, I think those micro events and those targeted groups of kind of little problem solving events are much, much more valuable than just going out to every conference every other week.
I see with some of the tech and facilities companies I speak with that they're precise enough that they literally have like a dream 100, 200, 300 accounts where there's 8, 10, 12 people in each of those accounts, like to worry about getting in front of thousands of people when there's really only a few hundred that really matter. This is a challenge of capital efficiency and unit economics. And I think right now things are just moving so fast that everyone's trying to capitalize on momentum, and they'll figure out the capital efficiency and cost of acquisition and things like that later. But it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, it's definitely a space race right now, or a
Literally.
power race. No pun intended, right? It's a space race. But you're right. I think it kind of goes back to understanding, doing your homework on those organizations, whoever your target organizations are, understanding the decision-making chain, where you fit in from a peer-to-peer relationship, and then how you can leverage other people on your team to get to the ultimate decision maker is super important. But it's not a dialing for dollars type of business, that's for sure.